Imagine if everything you believed about the origins of the Japanese people was fundamentally mistaken. What if the architects of one of the world's most sophisticated civilizations didn't emerge from the regions historians traditionally pointed to? What if cutting-edge DNA analysis has just unveiled that the Japanese lineage traces back to a civilization so enigmatic, so profoundly ancient, that its very existence remained completely unknown until mere years ago? For more than a century, the narrative surrounding the genesis of the Japanese people appeared to be definitively established. Academic textbooks invariably explain their lineage as descendants of rice farmers who journeyed from mainland Asia approximately 2,300 years ago, subsequently intermingling with the indigenous hunter-gatherer communities already inhabiting the archipelago. A straightforward and seemingly comprehensive account. Yet groundbreaking DNA evidence has now irrevocably shattered that long-held narrative. Recent genetic studies have unearthed a truly astonishing discovery, something utterly unforeseen. Modern Japanese individuals bear genetic markers from what researchers are calling a ghost population, a civilization that left virtually no archaeological footprint, yet contributed far more to contemporary Japanese DNA than anyone previously conceived. We are about to embark on a journey exploring how cutting-edge DNA analysis unveiled a lost civilization. The deeper story of Japanese origins commences with a persistent enigma that perplexed anthropologists for many decades. When early researchers meticulously examined ancient Japanese skeletal remains and juxtaposed them against those of neighboring East Asian populations, a critical discrepancy emerged. Physically, the Japanese exhibited subtle, yet distinct and measurable differences from the Chinese and Koreans. Cranial structures, bone formations, and specific facial features all presented variations that struck scholars as unusual for populations residing in such geographical proximity. This intriguing puzzle eventually gave rise to the dual structure hypothesis in the 1990s, a theory positing that Japanese ancestry stemmed from two primary ancestral groups. The first were the Jomon people, ancient hunter-gatherers who inhabited the Japanese archipelago from approximately 16,000 years ago until around 300 BCE. Following them, around 300 BCE, arrived the Yayoi people, migrating from the Korean peninsula. They introduced transformative innovations such as intensive rice agriculture, advanced metalworking techniques, and new cultural practices that profoundly reshaped Japanese society. The Jomon contributed a foundational genetic component. The Yayoi added a more substantial influx, and their intermingling ultimately gave rise to the modern Japanese populace. Early genetic studies conducted in the 2000s initially appeared to bolster this prevailing model. Researchers meticulously analyzed mitochondrial DNA and Y chromosome markers, uncovering evidence of both Jomon and Yayoi ancestry present in varying proportions across Japan's diverse regions. Specifically, Okinawans in the southern islands exhibited a higher proportion of Jomon ancestry, while populations in central Honshu showed a stronger Yayoi genetic signature. The narrative seemed coherent and logical, yet it was crucially incomplete. The dual structure model, as it turned out, harbored a significant flaw. When geneticists advanced their techniques to analyze whole genomes rather than just a handful of small, isolated genetic markers, the calculations simply ceased to align. Modern Japanese individuals displayed distinct genetic signatures that could not be adequately accounted for by a mere admixture of Jomon and Yayoi populations. A hidden genetic component was clearly present in the DNA, an ancestral source that had previously eluded identification. Something massive was lurking in the data, entirely unnoticed by conventional history. The true breakthrough arrived in 2021, when a pioneering team of researchers, spearheaded by geneticist Shigeki Nakagome, unveiled a landmark study in Science Advances. This publication fundamentally rewrote the established genetic history of Japan. Employing highly advanced genomic analysis techniques, Nakagome's team meticulously examined DNA extracted from ancient skeletal remains, some spanning millennia, and compared these samples to contemporary Japanese genomes. The findings were nothing short of stunning. The groundbreaking revelation was this: Japanese ancestry doesn't originate from two sources, but decisively from three. The ancient Jomon hunter-gatherers contributed approximately 10 to 20% of modern Japanese ancestry. The Yayoi rice farmers supplied another significant portion. Crucially, however, there was a third population, hitherto unknown, that introduced a truly massive genetic influx during a specific, pivotal period. This enigmatic ghost population, now tentatively referred to by researchers as the Kofun Period people, made their arrival in Japan between 300 and 700 CE. They ultimately contributed the single largest genetic component to modern Japanese ancestry, potentially a staggering 50 to 70% in some populations. The Kofun Period, aptly named after the colossal, keyhole-shaped burial mounds constructed throughout this era, represented a time of unparalleled and rapid transformation across Japan. It was during this epoch that centralized political power truly emerged, leading to the formation of the powerful Yamato state. Historians had long recognized the profound cultural and political significance of the Kofun period. What they were entirely unaware of, however, was that it simultaneously signified a massive genetic turnover, a wave of migration so extensive and impactful that it fundamentally and irrevocably reshaped the entire Japanese gene pool. But here, the narrative takes a truly intriguing and unexpected turn. These influential migrants did not originate from the Korean peninsula, the ancestral homeland of the earlier Yayoi people. Instead, their distinct DNA markers strongly indicate a different point of origin within East Asia. They possibly came from northern China, or a broader region encompassing parts of present-day Manchuria and the Russian Far East. Even more perplexing, their unique genetic signatures suggest they represented a population that had maintained a significant degree of relative isolation for an extended period prior to their journey to Japan. This is precisely where the concept of a ghost civilization truly crystallizes. The people responsible for this massive genetic influx into Japan during the Kofun period appear to have originated from a culture or region that left remarkably minimal archaeological evidence behind. Consequently, we possess no clear historical records detailing their identity, their exact geographical settlements, or the specific catalysts that prompted such an immense, large-scale migration. They manifest in the genetic record like elusive phantoms, their profound legacy indelibly written in DNA, yet largely conspicuously absent from the conventional archaeological and historical annals. Consider for a moment just how truly extraordinary this revelation is. We are discussing an ancestral population that contributed more genetically to modern Japanese people than any other identifiable source. And yet, until recently, their very existence was barely acknowledged. This momentous event transpired between 300 and 700 CE, a period when Imperial China maintained meticulously detailed historical chronicles, when Japan itself was commencing its own record-keeping traditions. Nevertheless, a massive human migration of profound consequence occurred, astonishingly managing to fly entirely under the radar of traditional historical scholarship for over a millennium. The sole reason we are now privy to this information is simple. DNA, unlike human memory or written records, does not forget. Genetic markers possess an incredible persistence. The modern Japanese gene pool is, in fact, a rich tapestry reflecting multiple distinct waves of migration, contributions from various source populations, and continuous genetic intermingling spanning thousands of years. Different regions across Japan now clearly exhibit varying proportions of these three fundamental ancestral components. Populations inhabiting central and western Japan reveal the most robust signals of Kofun period ancestry, a pattern that aligns perfectly with the historical, political, and cultural centers of ancient Japan. However, The profound mystery surrounding the Kofun Period people inevitably raises even larger questions concerning broader East Asian population movements. The mighty Han Dynasty in China had collapsed, plunging the region into the tumultuous Three Kingdoms period. The Korean Peninsula was a dynamic stage for the rise and fall of numerous powerful kingdoms. Simultaneously, formidable Central Asian nomadic groups pressed eastward. Against this dramatic backdrop of widespread migration, incessant conflict, and profound societal shifts, it becomes entirely logical that various populations would be compelled to move. These groups might have been fleeing endemic violence, seeking refuge, or actively pursuing better opportunities. Japan, with its fortunate relative isolation as an island nation, would undoubtedly have presented itself as an immensely attractive destination. What remains tantalizingly unclear is precisely which specific group capitalized on this opportunity. The compelling genetic data strongly suggests a Northeast Asian origin. Yet, this is precisely what elevates this phenomenon to the status of a true ghost civilization. We can clearly discern their enduring genetic legacy. We can precisely quantify their substantial contribution to the modern Japanese DNA. But what we cannot do is point to their definitive cities, their grand monuments, or their illuminating written records, and unequivocally declare this was their civilization. It is akin to discovering perfectly preserved footprints without ever locating the individual who created them. Such instances occur more frequently in the vast tapestry of human history than one might initially imagine. The field of genetics has unveiled numerous other ghost populations across Europe and the Americas. The Japanese case, however, stands out as particularly striking, precisely because of its relatively recent timeline and its distinct geographical specificity. Additional studies published in 2022 have since refined the Japanese ancestry model even further. These investigations suggest that the genetic influx during the Kofun period may not have been a singular wave, but rather a series of distinct pulses. Modern Japanese culture is frequently depicted as uniquely homogeneous, a singular, unified tradition. However, the genetic reality proves to be far more intricate and dynamic. The Japanese people are the complex product of multiple distinct ancestral populations. The Jomon bequeath their distinctive pottery traditions and animistic spiritual practices. The Yayoi introduced transformative agriculture, and the Kofun period migrants brought with them not only new political organization, but also a massive infusion of genetic diversity. The technological advancements enabling these profound discoveries have progressed dramatically within just the past decade. Ancient DNA analysis has been utterly transformed. Now equipped with this vital new understanding, we can revisit the archaeological and historical records with fresh eyes and incisive new questions. The fascinating detective work is far from over. Sleep well tonight, knowing that hidden deep within your own genetic code might reside the extraordinary stories of countless civilizations nobody consciously remembers. Populations that once flourished and then faded, leaving behind nothing but the silent, molecular echoes carried forward in the living cells of their descendants.